A very good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Walters Kluwer, a warm welcome to our speakers and attendees of this nursing webinar under Nursing Age series. Our today's topic is health promotion research, and our speaker today is Dr. S. Kanchana, who is professor and principal of Omayal Achi College of Nursing. She is also coordinator of Omayal Achi Community Health Center, and she is also research director in India for International Center for Collaborative Research. We'll try to take all questions at the end of the webinar, and I request you to all please post all your questions in the Q&A panel of this event. We'll try to address the maximum questions at the end. We'll also provide you valuable feedback via the link which we'll post in the chat section of the webinar. Now we begin our session, and I hand over to Dr. Kanchana, and I request her to please start sharing her screen.
Thank you, Ravi.
Ma'am, I've given you the access.
Can you view the screen?
Yes, ma'am, I can. You can just put in a search mode. Ma'am, can you do it a slideshow, ma'am, please?
Yeah. Is the slides moving?
Yes.
Okay. A very good evening and Malay Vanakkam to the audience who are there out virtually. And I take it a deemed pleasure to thank Walters Kluwer, Sangeeta, as well as Ravi for giving me an opportunity to interact with the audiences today on health promotion research. Health for all and all for health. I think that's what all of us are now focusing on. And we're looking at promoting health basically towards a sustainable development, not only in India, but across the globe. So this wheel talks about the 17 goals which are there set by the World Health Organization and focusing on 169 targets which we are looking at to handle during this as we talk about health promotion. Today we'll have a small flashback about health promotion and then we'll go into transition into the health promotion research concepts. Health promotion has been of prime importance in the current scenario. All of us should accept that COVID has given us a center stage towards a rethinking towards health promotion. All of us are now trying to stay healthy as maximum as possible by trying to, bringing in immune boosters into our daily food, having healthy diet, taking enough rest, see that we have the, we are stress-free. All that is being thought of now. Probably COVID has given us a lesson today on how important it is to handle health before we become ill, how to keep ourselves healthy and how to promote ourselves healthy. So that way, nurses in education, practice and research setting has a very great role in advancing the health status of our population. Historically, as nurse educators, we have all taught our patients how to manage illness. How to, when you have this disease, how to treat. When you have the kidney diseases, how to have a kidney-based diet. But today, I think we have to focus what the future is for the younger generation. We have to start telling people or teaching people how to remain healthy. I think there comes a very important aspect about health promotion. But as nurses, do we have a responsibility in adding knowledge or enhancing this knowledge for health promotion? So if you have to enhance knowledge for any kind of promotion, for any kind of phenomena, we need to do research. I think that's where health promotion research has attracted me. We as the International Center for Collaborative Research have done a conference related to health promotion research. And today, because COVID is teaching us, masking, all the three things, SMS, the sanitization, social distancing and masking, all is related to health promotion concepts. The CAB, coronary appropriate behavior, which we are following, it's all related to health promotion concepts. We are trying to prevent COVID among our population as much as the government, not only the government, individual, family, community, many non-governmental organizations and social action groups are all focusing on how to prevent this COVID and how to be COVID free currently in our families. So I think the future is what it is to tell people how to remain healthy in this current scenario. For this, nurses must have an understanding on evidence-based practices, evidence-based health promotion practices. Now, how do you say? See, all WhatsApp informations and Google information gives us so many informations telling that you must drink this, your immune status will improve. If you drink this kind of juice, this immune status will improve. I think those are all lay informations. But we need to have scientific informations, evidence-based informations, not only derived from biomedical research. It could be a cumulative of qualitative informations, narrative stories. It could be an ethnographic study. It could be a case study, any sort of informations which are scientifically based. It is evidence based. I think those are practices which nurses have to promote among the population. So we always have this good practice and practices to be avoided, and harmful practices which should be never be done by the population. I think the overall outcome is that if you're going to utilize evidence-based health promotion practices, then our health of the population is going to improve at large. So let us see a flashback on how health promotion was coined in 1945 by Henry. He had four major tasks, especially both for medicine and for nursing. The major concept is how to promote health, but we have now moved away from the health component into illness component. So how to promote health was the first task. How to prevent the illness was the second task. Restoration towards the sick without going for more palliative end or the end care stages, and how to go in for rehabilitation. So all these tasks focuses on are the major focuses or tasks which was outlined by Henry, and it was again been advanced in Canada in 1970. Then our landmark declaration, the Alma Ata Declaration, where WHO coined the Health for All concept, and the Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion, which even still now World Health Organization is using this Ottawa Charter for Health Promotion logo as its major 5 action priority areas towards health promotion. And in WHO 2004, they said it's not only physical health, but it's important to promote even mental health among our population. So all this led to something called as a sustainable developmental goals. If you remember the first slide which I showed you, the wheel there talking about 17 goals and 169 targets. It's all towards having a sustainable development in our country and in the globe, which is a 2030 agenda for sustainable development, which provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet, not only now, but also into the future. It talks about the very important promotion aspects in various, starting from preventing hunger, preventing poverty, zero hunger and no poverty targets, to remaining healthy, how to keep your environmental sustainable. All those were undertaken in the year 2050, and India, being a United Nations member state, has also adopted this target of sustainable developmental goals. And phase by phase, year by year, there is a strategic development which is being done towards achieving this 2030 agenda of sustainable developmental goals. So how do we define health promotion? Very simple. It is enabling ourselves. We should know what are the modifiable and non-modifiable determinants of health. So all the modifiable determinants of health should be enabled by us to keep ourselves healthy. The process of enabling to increase control over the determinant of health. If I know this is what I have to have a control, exercise is important. I have to walk. There is a history of NCD in my family. How to prevent myself from having the obtaining this NCD, of how to prevent NCD free. All these aspects. Now, how do we have a control over this phenomena? Our lifestyle. Our lifestyle behavior changes are one major impact which have on NCDs. So we should know, or we should as nurses enable our population to identify those determinants of health and have a control over those determinants of health, so that we can improve the health of the population. Now, this is the Ottawa Charter Health Promotion logo. And in this logo, if you can see this, there is a small circle inside which talks about three basic strategies: enabling, mediate, and advocating. Enabling, mediating, and advocating. Here, I apply nursing principles into these three strategies, which has been coined by Ottawa Charter. Enabling is towards an accessible healthcare. There are services available, and that services should reach the population. So, an equal opportunity towards healthcare services. So, I think equitable distribution of healthcare services, that's an enabling component. Mediating is being a liaison between the population who needs the services and the government who's providing the services or the healthcare system. So that's a mediating role or the strategy which the health promotion talks about. And advocating with policymakers. Nurses should advocate with policymakers the required need for healthcare strategies in the community or in the population where we are working. So these are the three basic strategies which the Ottawa Charter has mentioned in the logo of enabling, mediating, and advocating. There are three wings in this symbol or in this logo, which talks about 5 key themes. Now, these 5 key themes have been adopted by World Health Organization as a priority action areas for promoting health among the global population. So if you see the 5 key themes talks about building healthy public policies. Now, if you go along with me, the tobacco control strategies, which is the prohibition of smoking in public places and non-availability of tobaccos in the near the schools, near the colleges, or in the shops is our public health policies. Wearing helmet is again a public policy. So there are certain policies which are there. So building such kind of policies, the trans fat, the trans fat in every packed food and the processing, the systems which are regulated along with this public policy, all these are going towards, preventing illness. They are trying to promote health before the person becomes ill or exposed to the risk factor. Next is creating supportive environments. Now, what are these supportive environments? Many organizations are coming out to help the community. Community participation and community action, the 2 and 3. Creating supportive environments so that you will be able to strengthen community action and bring in a change within the community. And also to develop personal skills. Now, all of us are teaching our community people how to test their own blood sugar, how to do a self-breast examination, how to do an oral health assessment. All this is being taught by us to our own community people. So it is important that we develop personal skills among our community people and make them as change agents in the community. And reorientation of healthcare services. As I said, we have to move away from tertiary care services and focus more on the primary care services. Primary care services, because if we spend a time on the primary care component, then our expenditure on the tertiary care can be minimized to, I know scientifically it has proven, many financial economical studies have been shown that if you focus and if you fund on the primary healthcare initiatives, definitely your cost on spending on the tertiary care expenses will definitely reduce. So reorienting the kind of healthcare services which we are trying to provide in our healthcare system. Now, there's always a concept. Does health promotion apply only to healthy population? I would say that's not the actual phenomenon. There are many approaches towards health promotion, but if you can see this various approaches which are here, you can apply health promotion to a healthy population. You can apply health promotion to population with risk factors, to population with symptoms, and population with known disorders. It's only the level at what you are targeting on towards health promotion. For a healthy population, like for people who are not affected with COVID, we are telling them to take the vaccination so that they are prevented from COVID. Some kind of primordial prevention which you are looking at even before giving them a vaccination. So promoting healthy lifestyle. If you know a family which has NCD, like mother and father is an NCD, you know they are at risk factor. Except for their hereditary, there are modifiable risk factors. which we can talk to them and do prevent the risk factors. So health, it is not only applicable only to a healthy population, but also to people who have been exposed to a risk factor, exposed to a symptom, as well as exposed to a known disorder. So now what is health promotion research? See, we have to have a better understanding on the health risk factors, no doubt about it, and also on the salutogenesis. Salutogenesis is the identifying of the origin of health and what factors suppose health. They focus more on that than of the disease. That's why we say the disease as pathogenesis, and the origin of health and health promoting factors are the salutogenesis. But also it is important that what is the role of the environment in creating or damaging health? Now, currently, if we say, we can never deny that this health has been traditionally and it has been inherited in generation to generation. But over the changes in globalization or urbanization, or in the concepts of lifestyle, which has been changed dramatically over a period of time, we now need to know how. We need to know how. So how to know that? Unless we do research, we will not be able to identify what kind of services should be reoriented, how to reduce the inequalities, how to achieve successful community participation and intersectoral work. What are the modalities? What kind of interventions are required? Who has to be a part of this process? So if we have to know how this has to be done, then we need to do health promotion research, which investigate the different issues, not only the different issues, but also going out of the concept of biomedical research. No, this clinical trials or randomized clinical trials probably are used in biomedical research, but when we come towards health promotion, you are dealing with a kind of population which is healthy, or they have not yet contracted disease, or probably the complication. So what is that we should know here is, you can use various methods that will able to identify the health promotion interventions which we can be applied to the community. So it doesn't mean you only have to do an RCT, but you can do a community-based participatory research. We call it CBPR. You can mix qualitative research with quantitative research, which is a mixed method research. You can do an ethnographic study. You can do a phenomenological study and identify the research, you can do research in health promotion strategies, which will enhance the health of the population. Why should we do health promotion research? What is the need for doing health promotion research? Most countries are now experiencing unprecedented social transformation. There is population growth, there is urbanization. So as I told you, knowing only about health is not important, but also seeing how the environment has an impact on the health is also very important. So seeing this is why we want to do research. How has this urbanization, how has this population growth has an impact over the health of the population? The accelerated globalization on the complex emergencies which are there now. What we are currently facing, the COVID pandemic itself, is a disaster, or it's under the disaster management. We are trying to, the pandemic has given us a complex situation in our country, across the globe, where every policymaker is trying to do the best to achieve what we want to a normalcy. So that normalcy to achieve is a long way forward, but people, within the identifying of the disease, within the 6 months, we have got a vaccination. Now the problem is how to motivate people to vaccinate. So that's again a health promotion strategy which has to be thought about by the community health personnel, where it's our role to motivate people to come towards for vaccination. So what a newer approach is required to address the broader determinants of health? So we have now identified various determinants of health apart from what it was earlier stated. In 1990, the determinants of health, according to me, was different. But now in 2021, when I'm now, after 25 years of this teaching experience, if I see the determinants of health has been expanded, it is broader. Now, how are we going to target those broader determinants of health? So research is required and for nurses, it is very much important, because we are the people who are with the population and who are supposed to be. Earlier, it was nurses' major role was to teach about how to keep ourselves healthy, but now all of them are in the bedsides, in the ICUs, in the OTs, talking about taking care of more of tertiary care people. I think our system orientation, even in nursing education, we have to think about more on primary concepts. So nurses should be able to apply these evidence-based concepts into day-to-day care services. So in their daily healthcare strategies, this should be health promotion strategies should be evidence-based. They should have skills and competencies to influence public health related policies. Now, that is why we need to have nurses. As nurses, we should orient ourselves towards the improvement of health promotion practice, and research is one way how we can orient and practice the evidence-based strategies. So what you can do in health promotion research? Health impact of social and economic policies. So what can be done? You can see what health impact because of the social and economic policies. So what social changes has happened? Now we see a lot of migrant population in our community. Now this migrant population health status, as we say, has a greater impact on the health of our population too. So the same way the economic policies. Now, currently, there's been a lot of unemployment, which we have seen after the COVID pandemic. This unemployment leads to depression, and this depression has a greater impact on the family. And if it's going to be the breadwinner, the whole family, the kind of complexity we are faced with. So what is the health impact of the social and economic policies brought in? And also to study the processes of how intersectoral collaboration and community participation will help in enhancing the strategies. The process of planning and implementation of activities. For example, now many technology-based interventions are there, like mobile health, M-health interventions are there. You have e-health interventions, literacy-based interventions. So how are these going to be effective? Is it going to be effective? If so, what is the extent of outcome of such policy of these activities? And the process of policy development, how to develop a policy. Now we do research, but what should happen to that research evidence which comes out? Once this research evidence comes out, what you have to do is that you have to convert this research as a meta-analysis or a systemic review. Try if we can able to do, then we'll be able to then recommend this to the government towards a policy documentation. Now, for example, this TB research is something which has been documented. The revised national TB control program, the DOTS program, all that was based on previous health promotion research activities, where why a person does not take, there is no compliance towards a drug, and how that became a problem, and how DOTS program was brought in. So those are program policies which have come into effect because of the research on which was conducted in health promotion components. Now I'll be showing you the 17 goals, and the first goal is no poverty, where, as I said, the 17 goals which has been adopted by World Health Organization towards a sustainable development. So to promote sustainable development, we have to see that these 17 goals and targets related, 169 targets related to these 17 goals are achieved, so that we'll be able to promote health among our population. Now the goal one is poverty. So research. How do we connect research to the sustainable development goal? Nurses are given the opportunity to choose, because within our local, this is not, if this sustainable goals are mentioned, it is not only at the global level. Even at the local level, we can do small level research programs which can be sustained in that specific community, or in the institution affiliated to those communities can adopt this and utilize this. So around 700 million people live in extreme poverty. Do not know, teaching people not to waste and to donate what they don't use, even that kind of concept, creating awareness about this is also important. The zero hunger, macro and micronutrient efficiencies, how to address to the farmers, how to address to the users, consumers of the food. So that way also researchers can be focused on. Next comes good health and well-being, and that's what is health promotion we are focusing on. Today's COVID vaccination is all about how to we have an example of vaccination resulted in drop of 80% measles deaths between 2000 and 2017. So we have a past history of how vaccination is helping people. So probably we have to advocate for this good health, advocate towards vaccination, advocate towards the SMS and CABs to the community so that they are become COVID free. And also the another important vital area where we believe a change in this would have a greater impact in all the goals is the education of children in our community. Now, there are many children who have not even seen the school at all across. We had been to one of the communities, which is an Irulan community in our locality, where these people are more focused on catching snakes. Now, when we went into that community, we were astonished to see that they don't even have a proper housing. There is no potable water. There is no electricity. In an urban sector of Chennai, just around 20 kilometers away from Chennai, you have a community like this, 62 houses in a 62 families in that community who do not have access to even basic facilities. So I had taken a Rotary team to visit, so what development could be done. And initially, we are starting a learning center. We have seen the impact of learning center in other NGOs, and we are now initiating this learning center so that at least if they are not going for proper schooling, they'll be at least be able to understand how to carry themselves in the society, the moral values which they can learn, which they should know at this age can be taught to them. Simple maths, simple understanding about life, all that would be done during this. So that's about what you can do. Now, when we start this learning center, we are going to see the effect of this program on these children. So the same way nurses or healthcare personnel can think about doing small scale researches in their area which will promote the health of the population. Empowering women towards equal rights. Again, a very, very important thing where domestic violence or physical and sexual violence against women are very high. Every newspaper talks about this. So I think we have to think about how to empower our people. Research is focusing on these kind of violence and how prevention, what strategies, how to keep our girls empowered with this information and how to prevent themselves when there is a problem. I think all these are opportunities for health promotion research. Avoid wasting water. Again, how to manage water in the community, how to retain the water from the rain or the sources which they get. I think that's something which we have to keep teaching our community people. And use of solar power in the communities are very, very good. So I think we should talk about teaching all this and creating job opportunities for our women in the community as well as the youth in the community. I think employability, see, education and employability. If we connect, these are two very important determinants for health. So if this education and employability are handled well, or if we can build more strategies towards education and employability, then the community itself becomes sustainable in wherever they are. So at least for that, we must see what opportunities are there for the younger population, how to revive our industry and support the marginalized and disadvantaged. Now, here we are talking about these people who are living in the periphery, who do not have access to basic healthcare services, even to come to a sub-center or a primary health center. They do not have the transportation to come. So how are we going to address these marginalized and disadvantages? What are the health promotion strategies we can do for these communities? How to identify, how to think about the issues which are pertaining to them? How are we going to address those issues? Locally developed interventions are more favorable to the community sustainability. The bike, walk or use public transportation drive towards sustainable cities and communities. Recycling paper, plastic, glass and aluminum. Teaching community on correct disposal of plastic itself is a big research which we have to keep doing in our communities. Act to stop global warming. I think now more NGOs are being developed in these areas where we are talking about planting trees, avoiding plastic bags. Avoiding plastic bags. There's a public policy in place. There is a healthy public policy in place, which we are already there and people are practicing. Next comes the peace, justice, and strong institution. Even now, globally, we know the kind of the problems Taliban and Afghanistan, which is Afghanistan is facing. It's not only to stand up to the human rights. It is global, but to your own people, in the area where we live, I think that all will make a great change. Partnerships with organizations, partnership with the government, I think partnership with NGOs, Rotary, and being a Rotarian, I can see the kind of work the Rotarians are doing, the Rotary clubs are doing. I think that's where the polio eradication was instrumentally done by the partnership with Rotary, and now India is polio free. It's because of Rotary's involvement with the government. So how to have partnerships locally and at your district or at your state, how to help them in developing the financing component. So the 17 goals which I've mentioned are very, very important, and based on the 17 goals, we can do a lot of research work. So I'm going to just share you a few of our exposures which we had in health promotion research, and how to strengthen community action and how community action is important. Now, the first model which I would love to, people who are here would have heard about this model because we are advocating this model among nurses. We have a nurse-led community health center in Arkambakam where we serve 55,000 population. This is one such model, which is a kiosk model. The story behind this is that in 2011, we did a survey of hypertension and diabetes in our community, and we were alarmed to see the number of the double statistics which we have seen from about 8 years before we did the survey. In 2011, it has been doubled. And then that's what made us think about, why don't we first create awareness? So what we did is we called 2 people from every community, from 10 communities. We called 2 of them who had the desire or passion towards service for their people. So we trained them in the areas of hypertension, diabetes, and addictive disorders like alcohol, smoking, and also taught them on CPR. So we let these 2 people go into the community, and 2 have to train 20 train 200. So like that, we had 2,000 odd people who were trained in the area of hypertension and diabetes. Later, what we did was, those from whom we were trained, we thought that we have now created awareness, but that's not enough. We have to go one step further and provide them services where they'll be able to prevent, control, and manage NCDs in their own community. And that's how we started the village health kiosk. So the project was on effectiveness on trained community level workers, on knowledge and attitude regarding chronic diseases among general public in villages, adopted by Omayalachi Community Health Center, was a village health empowerment project I told you. Next, we have this kiosk. Now, this kiosk is 2 women man the kiosk 3 days a week, and they check the blood sugar, blood pressure, BMI of the people who come to them and identify the abnormalities. And the first time we identify, they refer to our health center. We register them as a kiosk non-communicable disease person, and we then send them back to the community where they get the treatment from the village health kiosk itself. But if we identify pre-hypertension and pre-diabetes, we give them education and follow them up for 3 months and see their control on the blood pressure and blood sugar. Apart from this, for general public, the women are trained to provide awareness regarding hypertension, prevention of hypertension and diabetes, and practicing healthy lifestyle. So our action plan was that we identified the villages which need health kiosks. We then identified 2 health volunteers. We did the training. We then gave them, we also trained them on CPR because they are can only access in a 24-hour healthcare service around 22 kilometers from the time. So the time is a golden hour. So we have taught most of them on CPR. So the women taking the kiosk member taking the training, we gave them a certification. We appreciated them and empowered them with a kit which they will have in their own village. So this kit contains a digital BP apparatus, a glucometer. It has glucose strips. Everything is done free of cost to them. In collaboration with Rotary and RSI Foundation, we are providing this kit to them. So we had 9 kiosks as up to 2020. Now we have got a funding for 3 more kiosks from Rotary, and now we have 12 kiosks. The 3 kiosks is yet to commence in the coming months. This is the Rotary Club where we are issuing the kits to them, and these are what we do is we continuously monitor them. So these are our women in action in the community areas. If you can see them at different spots, they are being doing their services. That was one of our health promotion research, a community participatory model, a very successful model. And this is the first, we are completing 10 years of our project commencement in 2021. And the next action model is our peer professional participatory model. It is awareness and screening for cervical, breast, and oral cancer. So what did we do? We first identified the importance or effectiveness of a cancer awareness package among our women. We identified that their knowledge was less, so we created a cancer awareness module for both cervical cancer as well as breast cancer for women at risk. So what we did is we trained our own OBG nurses at Russia in CMC, and after which they were then empowered with the whole kit to do that in the village individually. The nurses themselves, our obstetrics and gynecology PG staff themselves, will do the village level screening using via-Vili method, and they also do a clinical breast examination. So this is how we teach them using a model for breast examination. And this is how we set up a village for a screening program. This is also in a village in a school, and this is giving them training. And this is Dr. Rajkumar, who is actually doing the colposcopy for us. So what do we do initially? We do the village level screening for via-Vili. And if there are doubtful cases, we bring them to the health center, and doctor comes and performs the colposcopy for us. But now our own OG people are, they are empowered to do the colposcopy also. So this is how we train our people, and nurses are capable of doing the cervical cancer screening in their own villages. And they can set up the cancer screening center within the areas where they work. We are ably supported by Dr. Rajkumar and Dr. Revati Vijayalakshmi for that. And I just want to mention this. When I told sir that I'm presenting on health promotion research, he immediately posted a message stating that, Kanchana, you have to definitely mention this, that effectiveness, safety, and acceptability of see and treat with cryotherapy by nurses in a cervical screening study in India, where you can see Dr. Rajkumar, he is the person, and he said that if this study was effective, it was because of nurses. So that's the kind of health promotion work what nurses can carry out in the communities where we work. So I extend my thanks to Dr. Rajkumar sir for sharing, and he's been a big support to our nurses across. Next comes the other areas which I've told you where we have done the work in our communities. So I'm just showing you on all what I've spoken to you only is being put as health promotion research work here. But there are certain dilemmas. People question us. What is the independent dependent variable effectiveness? Whenever nurses go and do a study, where is the clinical trial? Where is this randomized clinical trial? What is the external validity? What is the internal consistency? I think health promotion research, when you're looking at large of improving the population's health, we might have certain difficulties to answer to all these questions. But however, these assumptions are difficult to meet when you are doing community-based health promotion, because your focus is not on people who have already contracted something, but you're looking at a healthy population. So the three important dilemmas people ask you when you want to look at health promotion research is, how is the intervention you are identifying, and what is the outcome dilemma? What is the rigor you have used, and how is this going to improve? Next is the number dilemma. Among how much sample have you tested this? And next comes the control group dilemma. So all these are some dilemmas which you will have. But nonetheless, we can definitely manage this challenge. How do we do it? You can think about reorienting the research model. So you do not always take a biomedical research model. As I told you, you can use a qualitative study. Our peer protector professional model, peer, where I talk about a person who's already undergone the cervical cancer screening. Protector is a person in the community who is a self-help group member or a liaison worker or a kiosk volunteer. And the professional is our OBG and community department staff. Now, these three people come together to do the work, to make people come for, to motivate people to come for cervical cancer screening. Now, this was a qualitatively based outcome. This was done completely using qualitative research. We did not use an RCT there, but we came out with a model which was effective, and I'm sure we are able to improve the numbers who are attending the camps. compared to what we did earlier. So this is how we can reorient the way how we use the research methodology. And the outcome variable definition. Definitely, people will ask the outcome, what you say, what is the percentage of efficiency there? Probably we may not be able to coin out, but we can list out narratively what will be the benefits to the population. The research methods, as I told you, you can use a community-based participatory research, or you can use a qualitative research or a mixed methods research. Criteria to judge validity can be reconsidered by triangulation of various methods, trustworthiness of information from more than one single source, data collection methods could be merged, and not only talking about validity and internal consistency. Validity can be also judged using these methods of triangulation of method, researchers, triangulation of data collection instrument, and also triangulation of information, key informants whom you have. So reconsidering all this, it is feasible and practicable. Experiencing the impact of health promotion research in my own community, I suggest that it is feasible for nurses to undertake health promotion research concepts. Now, I have mentioned all this, the areas where we have done the village health empowerment, the health assessment kiosk, cancer screening, oral health, school health, worksite-based NCD studies, community development programs, motivational clinic, mental health wellness centers. All these are the outcome of our health promotion research. However, if you are so aspirant to take up health promotion research, there are various opportunities which is available. You can think about gender, culture, and racial differences. You can think about how an environment has an impact on depleting or improving health. Identifying the social determinants for key to improving health. You can do meta-analysis and systemic reviews. There are empty number of opportunities which are there. I'm sure we'll be able to share this PPT to you. So there are so many opportunities available. So as nurses, it is in our hands to develop strategies. When you develop strategies which are locally or specific to the field where you are developing, always test it. You test it by applying it in your own community, and definitely don't forget to write about it, publish it in a journal so that people will have access to this information. Most of these informations on community-based participative research from our International Center for Collaborative Research, which is supporting nurses towards researchers, is also considering our need for health promotion research. Digital interventions are now very much acceptable. So we have to look into how to, how are you going to use it effectively in our population, where a growing population, which is not as static, which is more diverse. So how do we going to use these methods is what we look at. So there are many opportunities I've told you, and I've just listed out all the opportunities. So if you get this PPT in hand, you'll have an idea. And you can do departmental work on it, you can do your your academic work on it, but try identifying. And once you identify a strategy, please write about it and publish it and inform our own nursing fraternity that these interventions are evidence-based and you can utilize it in your day-to-day care. So as I go through, we have seen the 17 goals and the impact of research, health promotion research in the 17 goals to promote sustainable development among our population. So having heard the story of health promotion research and our story of how we develop practices, I invite you all to be an ambassador for health promotion. Keep talking to people about how important it is to promote health and preventing curing a disease. I spoke to you of this salutogenesis. It was written by a person in a book on health, coping, and stress. They said how health can be maintained by coping with the stress. It is not stress only emotionally, but it's physically as well as to how people who came out of the stress, how they coped with the stress, and how did they remain healthy. So this kind of approach, not only identifying the origin towards health, but how to keep away whatever will deter your health. I think that's where our focus should be, how to stay healthy in this current environment. So I invite you all to be an ambassador, and as nurses, let us contribute to enhance the pool of evidence-based interventions for promoting health through health promotion research. So I invite you all, and I think that's what nurses require, or nursing requires now. So health promotion, talk about health promotion than on curation. So that's my humble, request to each and everyone who are joined virtually here today. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take any questions. Over to you, Ravi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanchana. It was a very elaborative, and I'm very happy to see that the Umayya Lajpal College of Nursing are doing so much, in terms of health promotion research, which is happening, as far as your capacity and with the contribution of other private organizations like Rotary and all. So, ma'am, there are few questions. Like first question that I would like to ask, interesting question, which is that how health promotion research get affected by ethical aspect and political influences.
See, ethically, you have to justify your action towards intervention. See, ethics is all about doing something good. You should not do harm to your people whom you are, to whom you are identifying the strategy to. So the ethical component is that see that you don't harm your people. Anything good. No, in community, there's always propagate what is good and let them follow if they think it is not going to be even helpful for scientifically, but it is for satisfaction allowed. But if it is harmful, tell them to prevent. So ethically, I feel here is that you should not harm your subjects as far your samples or your people. So your participants, as far as that, I think ethically health promotion research is widely accepted and it can be ethically defended well.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, another question is that you have just mentioned about that electronic resources are available. So the question is actually I also would like to put up like what do you mean by the electronic resources available for the health promotion and research?
No, actually, the M Health interventions, actually, even if you go to Government of India, the website, I don't know how many of them are having an opportunity to go to the Government of India websites which are there. They give you a lot of information related to day-to-day updates on the health promotion strategies which is being done elsewhere and being utilized. No, so the informations are available for you. You have to access those information and test it locally and utilize it. See, all evidences probably are not suitable to local actions. So we should be able to utilize those evidences in the local, which are available to us already with us. So those informations, you can test it locally and utilize it as an evidence-based practice in your setting. I mean, I meant that only.
Okay, so another question was I think similar to this only. That somebody is asking that what is digital intervention? This is
Pardon?
asking the same thing that what is digital intervention?
No, I didn't get digital
No,
interventions. Okay,
yeah.
digital interventions. Now you have apps related to, for example, you have for adolescent girls where we are looking at now. We are looking at. I mean, we are doing it as a part of our research. I'll just share that information. One of our PhD and scholar who really looks at doing PhD on anemia. We are looking at adolescent anemia prevention, but we are not going to adolescent alone. We are looking at the whole family. And because if I tell the adolescent to change the diet, the family is not going to change unless I do a family-based approach to it. Now I'm going to have integration of both digital intervention and the traditional intervention. The digital intervention is that I keep giving informations related to prevention of anemia, the anemia related concepts every day. I track them over on what diet they take, and I try to inform myself on the diet which the family has taken, and I also post information digitally to them. On the other hand, that is the digital interventions, that is M-Health interventions, the mobile health interventions or the e-health interventions are called as digital interventions which are available. So if you're not able to, if there is a feasibility for you, you are in an urban sector and definitely you can't reach the parents every day, you can talk about the child to the parent through that digital intervention mode. So interventions are specifically which are given online using apps or using e-health informations or mobile informations. That's what is digital interventions.
Great, ma'am. Another question which is asked actually, I'll just ask you, ma'am. After MSc Nursing, CHN, can we
Yeah.
practice or to start midwifery clinic at rural areas?
Yeah, definitely. Even without, see, you are an RN, you are a registered nurse and you're a registered midwife. If you have the registered midwife license with you, you can start a clinic on your own. Only thing is you have to know if you have to start a clinic, you have to give priority information register yourself with the government as well as inform the nursing council in whichever area you are. When you have the registered midwife license with you, the Registered Midwife Act license gives you the license to practice midwifery in the community as far as it is normal.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, there is another question, which is what is the website worksite based NCD studies?
Yeah, for example, we have done a worksite based in schools. We have taken teachers who are we have identified their level of blood pressure, blood sugar, and also their lipid profile, and we have identified their pre-test information, and we've given a worksite based program which was for 6 weeks, and that spoke on the awareness. We gave them the diet plan, we gave them the changes which they have to do. So we did a 6-week, we did a 12-week, and we did a 24-week intervention study. So initially we did a pre-test on their basic information related to NCDs. It is based on the worksite, improving the worksite wellness of the employees in that organization. So we did a pre-test, we did an assessment, and then we gave the worksite intervention, and then did the post-assessment 3 times, so that for change of lifestyle, it takes time. But once the employees know that the problem they have and the impact which it will have on them and their health and the family, they tend to change their lifestyle immediately. So we had a very good exposure when we did that study. So worksite is either in the educational setup, in the organizational setup, or in an industrial setup. When you do the work on employees and the people who are working there, probably that is what we call as worksite based studies.
Okay, ma'am. Another question is that are there any funding agencies for health promotional research in India?
See, actually, we as a college, we are blessed with an International Center for Collaborative Research. We are doing most of the studies which I mentioned to you are funded by them only. But nevertheless, we have certain universities who funded, like one of the cancer awareness package, oral health cancer awareness package I told you was funded by our university, and one was funded by our council. So there are locally available organizations. Only thing is tapping at the right organization to fund you is important. So if you're looking at non-communicable diseases, look at websites which are related, organizations which are also on the same line of targeting on NCDs. So those organizations will help you.
Okay, ma'am. So there is another question which was actually asked, I would say to us, which is how Wolters Kluwer is contributing to health promotion research. It's an interesting questions that they are asking that how Wolters Kluwer contribute to. Yeah, so I think I just tell you that Wolters Kluwer, through our Lippincott, Williams and Wellcome's imprint, but we publishes most of the most iconic books in the healthcare education and practice. And Lippincott has been guiding medical knowledge for generations now. Wolters Kluwer India today has embarked on a mission to make healthcare content accessible and locally relevant by adapting some of the most highly regarded books for India, and depend on Lippincott to develop peer-reviewed, professionally edited medical educational content, and we deliver it to you in novel ways that improve comprehensive and retention, access education resources for faculty, students, and professionals in print and digital format. In addition to the renowned Lippincott books, we also provide digital learning tools. They'll help students gain mastery and advance in the next level. So this is our way of promoting health promotion research through our content, which are available in a print as well as digital format. And also, Dr. Kanchana would second me here that also our contents are now more and more evidence-based, as it is very important to have an evidence-based content nowadays in terms of in today's world. So this is how we try to deliver the content part of information in digital as well as the print format. So that is so far so good, ma'am. So thank you so much. I would like to thank
just like to share to all the participants, if you are in need of any of these studies which we mentioned to you, you want to replicate it in your institution, I'll be very happy to share the content to you so that you can replicate it and just give us a feedback. So the model everything is only we need the passion to work in the community. That's the only thing we require. If we have that, we'll be able to replicate all the models. So we'll be happy to share. If you can message to me, I would be very happy to share the content to you.
Yes, ma'am. Also, ma'am, I have just shared the feedback form with all the attendees. So if they really wish to address any questions and more information or support required, they can mention the feedback form, and I can send the feedback form to you so you can look into it.
Sure, sure, sure,
Now,
sure.
I would like to request and thank my Dr. Kanchana for taking a time out and holding this very interesting and elaborative session for nursing fraternity. And also, I thank our participant attendees for taking a time out and attending this session. Now, there'll be more, such seminars in nursing age series in the coming future, and we'll keep on delivering this qualitative and informative events for you in the future. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time today and attendees
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.